on Easter Sunday is going to be sort of Easter bonnets, Easter bunny, and Easter egg free. Now I know that's what you wanted to hear, but maybe next Easter, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they do say, don't they? Seeing is believing. However, in our sort of current technological age, seeing is not always believing. Seeing is not always the truth. We can, can't we? We can have a very clever, digitally changed or created photographs. You know, these TikTok stars and models and goodness knows who, you know, they airbrush the blemishes out, don't they, on the old photos. They maybe thin down in a few places they want to, or the guys, they muscle up in a few more places. I don't know, but anyway, they can be easily changed these days. Computer-generated images are getting, you know, they're getting to the level where it's sometimes hard to tell the real thing from a fake. You know, is that actually somebody, or is that a generated computer image? There's also the whole industry on the internet, you know, where people get pleasure, or most likely it's about profit, in manufacturing fake information to fool the unwary. I mean, how can you be even sure what I'm saying today is true? I assure you, you know, look at this honest face. I assure you, I mean, would I lie? Would I lie to you? No, of course I wouldn't. And sort of with all this fake information going around, I expect this is the reason why a whole subculture on our sort of digital platforms have sprung up in the form of conspiracy theories. You know, they reel them in, don't they? They reel them in, and some of the craziest conspiracy theories out there. I think you've all heard this one. You know, that the moon landing was fake. You know, all the pictures and everything. It's all fake. It's you know, that's an old chestnut, that one, isn't it? But have you actually heard this one? That there's some people out there that don't actually believe the moon is real. They think it's some sort of NASA project with a digital image projected on the sky. I mean, I expect that's why they had to fake the moon landings, because there wasn't a moon to land on. I don't know. I mean, people even think space itself, you know, outer space up there, is fake. It doesn't exist. I'm not quite sure what they think is up there, but they don't even think that. COVID-19, that was engineered by Bill Gates, wasn't it? Or it was, or the media, that's the one, it was all a big media conspiracy. To do what? I haven't got a clue, but apparently that's another conspiracy theory here. The Earth is hollow. Now, we've all seen Journey to the Centre of the Earth, haven't we? we all know there's dinosaurs living in the centre of the Earth, don't we? Of course we do. What I've sort of mentioned previously, you know, the world is flat. People believe that it's not round. We live on a flat plane. Prince Charles is a vampire. That might be true. That might be true. I don't know. The Titanic, that didn't sink. Don't know if you know that, but the Titanic, it didn't sink. They've got evidence for that. And my favourite out there is that some people really believe out there that zombies can be raised from the dead. So even some councils, and this is true, I'm not lying to you, even some councils have got zombie apocalypse contingency plans in place. I rather think that's a little bit of bureaucratic humour. I don't really think they think that. But my goodness me, if they did, I mean, who is running the madhouse? I don't know. I do know one thing for sure, though. I bet you didn't think I'd be talking about zombies on Easter Sunday, but there you go. And if you start to challenge any of these crazy theories, with proof, such as showing flat earthers a picture of a round planet, taken from outer space, or the other proof is in the ships disappearing over the horizon because it's the Earth is round. They'll claim it's all fake. It's all generated by computers or manipulated by NASA or whatever. But as soon as they show you their proof, all of a sudden that seems to be the real deal. It couldn't possibly be a deception. There is a good way to begin to tell the con man from the real deal. The con man will always say, without a shadow of a doubt, don't believe anyone else. They're all lying to you. I'm the only one telling you the truth. And I assure you, I'm the only one telling you the truth today. Like I said, on his face, you know you can believe me. Believing is seeing, or is it? On this Easter Sunday, when we traditionally focus on the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, for some, seeing was for believing. And for all those that may be thinking it, Jesus was many things, but him raising from the dead, it had nothing to do with zombies, okay? So Jesus was many things, but Jesus was not a zombie. One famous person that subscribed to the seeing is believing philosophy was the disciple Thomas. We've all heard, haven't we, of Thomas, who doubting Thomas, as he's better known. I don't like to label him as that, because he was much more than just somebody that doubted. Let me just read to you from the account taken when Thomas doubted the resurrection of Jesus. It's taken from the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verses 24 to 29. Now, Thomas, also known as Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my fingers where the nails were, and put my hands into his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your fingers here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." Here we've got Thomas not believing in the resurrection of Jesus unless he saw with his own eyes himself. And the difficulty today is that some people find it hard to believe in the resurrection of Jesus and the significance that has on each of their lives. Not because they haven't seen with their own eyes, because obviously that's impossible, isn't it? These events happened 2,000 years ago. People find it hard to believe in the resurrection of Jesus because they don't believe in who Jesus actually was. And it's difficult to believe in who Jesus actually was if you don't believe that Jesus existed at all. That he was a man that lived on this round, not flat, round earth for a short time, some 2,000 years ago. There was a survey done a few years ago which found, I found it quite surprising, I don't know, found that a quarter of adults in England do not believe that Jesus was a real person. Forget about all the other stuff about Jesus. They didn't believe that Jesus, a quarter of the adults didn't believe that Jesus existed at all. Completely made up. Atheists often claim there is no tangible evidence for the existence of Christ, let alone who he was and what he had come to do. Biblical texts, the Bible, that they're dismissed as proof because there's no original copies. I mean, the oldest piece, and I'm not saying it's the whole New Testament, but little pieces. The oldest piece of the New Testament discovered dates back to around 110 to 140 years after the birth of Christ. No originals, just copies of copies. However, if we are to dismiss them, then we must also, on that same basis, dismiss many other great works from which we derive much of our history and the foundations for modern Western culture. We would need to throw out the works of Homer. We would need to throw out the works of Herodotus and Plato, whose earliest manuscripts in existence are at least some 14 to 19 centuries after they wrote them. You know, that's 1,400 to 1,900 years for those that haven't got a good grasp of maths. And there's also the dismissal of the Bible, dismissal of Scripture, because the writers were believers. They were believers in Jesus and such. Well, of course, they would have a bias about his existence. But there are many, plenty of unbiased, unbelieving Roman writers that mention Jesus in their writings, such as Flavius Josephus and Taccius and Sinontus. I don't know if I pronounced all them right. There was a Roman governor, not Bigus, the Monty Python fans, that's a reference to. But he was called Pliny the Younger. He could have been from Monty Python, could have been that name. He was called Pliny the Younger. And he and all the others, they wrote stuff about Jesus in the 1st and 2nd centuries. And that's just to name but a few. You see, any serious, credible historian, regardless of their belief, would be in no doubt that Jesus the man did exist some 2,000 years ago. The thing is, the problem is we have with the next bit, don't we? Who was Jesus? Imagine if you could go back yourself. You know, you could go back yourself when Jesus was alive, and you could arm yourself with all the high-tech video technology, and you could sort of capture it all. You know, Jesus in action. And when you got them back to the present, you could post it on the internet, couldn't you? And all the footage of Jesus, you know, healing the sick, casting out the demons, preaching the Sermon on the Mount, walking on water, and according to the Bible, turning about 150 gallons of water into wine at the wedding. 150 gallons. what sort of response would you get from all your internet buddies? Well, apart from the healthy disbelief that you actually possessed a time machine, I would expect most people would be quite sceptical in their thinking. The video evidence, it was fake. It was CGI. It was, more proof. More proof is required. And that's exactly the response Jesus got himself. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 12, it says, "Then some of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law said to him," that's Jesus, "Teacher, we want to see a sign from you." He answered, "A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. As Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Here we have a group of people, the Pharisees and teachers, wanting to see more proof that Jesus was who he claimed to be. Even though that most of them, they would have seen it for themselves. They would have heard first-hand accounts for themselves, seen with their own eyes and heard with their own ears. And of all the other previous miracles Jesus did, and what he said about himself. Apparently seeing and hearing as well, but seeing is not believing. If you lived, you didn't go back in time, but you were actually there, born at the time of Jesus. How much proof do you think that you would need to believe in him? 1 miracle? 2? 3? 4? What number would be enough? Or would no amount of miracles be enough? Like Thomas, would you have had to have put your hands in the nail marks of Jesus? Would you have had to have put your hand in his side where the centurion speared it? There were many who didn't believe Jesus' claim that he wasn't just a man, but that he was God himself coming to save all of mankind. That ultimately what got Jesus nailed to the cross, him claiming that he was God born to save mankind. In the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "Do not believe me unless I do the works of my Father. But if I do them, even though you do not believe me, believe the works, the miracles, that you may know and understand that the Father is in me and I in the Father." And Jesus, words about Jesus also taken from the Gospel of John. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, Jesus, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." Who was Jesus, and what is the great significance for our lives? Well, according to the Bible and the verses that I've just read to you, he was God who became a man, just like us, who laid down his life so that our rebellion, may it be rebellion, may be indifference, it may be apathy, it may be unbelief, but he laid down his life so that our relationship with God could be put right. Jesus is in the business of restoring that relationship between us and God. And he did this by being the sacrifice on the cross for all the wrong things we've done and thought. And when you sort of grasp who Jesus is and what he came to do, then his death and resurrection start not only to make a little bit more sense, but probably maybe could be a little bit more easily believed. If you already believe that Jesus had died for you, then what can you take away from this morning? You know, apart from some hot cross buns that are over there. Firstly, it's okay to have doubts about your Christian faith. Thomas had doubts, but Jesus didn't condemn him, did he? Jesus didn't come into the world to condemn. Jesus said, "See my hands, see my side." And Thomas replied, "My Lord and my God." And secondly, we haven't, have we, had the luxury of seeing Jesus like Thomas did. But Jesus said to all who believe without seeing that they are blessed. You are among that group of people this morning that Jesus says are blessed. You are blessed. Jesus' words. And if you don't yet believe who Jesus is and the significance that has on your life, well, there's one thing that I can't, there's one thing I cannot offer you this morning, and that's more proof. I have no tangible, hard, visible proof. The quote, "seeing is believing," is actually only half the quote. The full quote is from a 17th century English clergyman called, as a coincidence, Thomas. He was called Thomas Fuller. And he said, "Seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth." Sometimes we just have to go with a feeling that, could it be true? Is it possible that Jesus is who he claimed to be? The Son of God, come to save all of mankind, come to save me. If so, then it does require a response from us. There's no fence sitting allowed. My aim this morning was not to convert anybody to Christianity. I can't do that. It's impossible for anybody to do that. It's only God in the person of the Holy Spirit that can do that. My only aim was to maybe cast some doubt on unbelief, in the hope that you may not just take my word for it. My hope is that you may think and ponder seriously who Jesus was and begin to maybe discover for yourself the faith required to believe in him. I just finished this morning with a short quote from Saint Augustine, and said, "Faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe." And my prayer is that all of us will see more of Jesus for who he is and the great significance that he has for each of our lives. Let's pray.